Great. Well, it is 5 o'clock, and I would like to go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the Public Utilities Board of the City of Alameda for the month of June. May we start with the roll call?
President McCormick.
Here.
Commissioner Cerventi.
Here.
Commissioner Giantini.
Here.
Commissioner Gould.
Here.
City Manager Levitt. You're muted, but I see you saying here.
Great, thank you, all present. Obviously, we are still meeting virtually per the governor's executive order as we transition into the state opening, and hope to have in-person meetings soon. In the meantime, there are many ways to address the board during our virtual meetings, as shown on the slide posted via email using the web teleconference and the raise hand feature. Or by telephone when prompted by the host. And note that the chat window is not monitored during the meeting necessarily. We might see you, but not the best way to reach the board, as there are multiple opportunities for public comment. Are there any top of the meeting oral communication requests?
No, there are none.
Seeing none and seeing no special presentations tonight, we'll go right into the consent calendar. These are our routine items, which can be adopted, enacted, or approved by one motion, unless there is a request for removal for discussion by members of the board or members of the public. We have 9 items on the consent calendar tonight. Are there any requests for removal?
This is Commissioner Cerventi. I request removal of item 4I.
Okay. Any further requests? Great. May we have a motion for adoption of the balance of the consent calendar?
This is Laura Gentini. I will motion to approve the balance of the calendar.
Commissioner
The consent
Cerventi
calendar.
seconds.
Great. We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call vote?
President McCormick.
Aye.
Commissioner Cerventi.
Yes.
Commissioner Giantini.
Yes.
Commissioner Gould.
Yes.
City Manager Levitt.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. The consent calendar balance passes, which moves us to the very controversial item I, which I will turn over to Commissioner Cerventi.
Well, thank you very much, President McCormick. I would like to read the resolution for item 4I. It is to commend Ann L. McCormick for her tenure and distinguished service to the Public Utilities Board. Whereas Ms. Ann L. McCormick has been a dedicated and committed member of the Public Utilities Board from 2000 to 2010 and 2013 to 2021. And whereas during her total of 18 years of service as a member of the Public Utilities Board, she served with distinction in several capacities, including Commissioner, Vice President, and Board President for the past 3 years. And whereas while a member of the Public Utilities Board, President McCormick was distinguished in her devotion to duty, dedicating her management abilities to the continued orderly progressive development of Alameda Municipal Power. And whereas her support and advocacy for the short-term sale of renewable energy credits, RECs, provided AMP with an innovative funding source to support programs that reduce GHG emissions in the community with no cost impact to customers. And whereas President McCormick was a strong advocate for the need for AMP to evolve to meet the future challenges facing utilities and AMP, including, among other things, the approval of AMP's advanced metering infrastructure project to replace 36,000 meters with modern metering infrastructure. And whereas she worked tirelessly to position the utility to be carbon neutral starting in 2020, and to be well ahead of most utilities in meeting renewable portfolio regulatory requirements. And whereas her knowledge, expertise, and abilities were of great assistance to the functioning and policy direction of the Public Utilities Board. And whereas President McCormick also provided invaluable support and enthusiasm for a variety of innovative customer service and public benefit programs and maintenance of Alameda Municipal Power's exceptional records of safety and reliability. And whereas President McCormick Also was key in establishing and maintaining electric rates, currently 28% lower than rates in surrounding communities, and ensuring that there have been no rate increases the past 2 years. And whereas it has been a pleasure to work with President McCormick, and she will be truly missed by all. Now therefore be it resolved that the members of the Public Utilities Board, the City of Alameda, hereby commend Ann L. McCormick for her past 8 years of advocacy and 18 years overall as a member of said board, and for honest, loyal, faithful, and dedicated service to Alameda Municipal Power and to the residents of the City of Alameda. And I'd like to say I wholeheartedly concur with this resolution. And I really do appreciate the mentoring that you have given me over the last 3 years. It's helped me, or actually, I guess it's been more than 3 years now, but it's really helped me move forward and help me really represent AMP on the NCPA board. And I appreciate the comments you've made whenever we've gotten together with NCPA and when we met in Sacramento with the members of our delegations there, and when we went back to DC and our interactions, and has been very helpful to me. And I'm not sure everybody really appreciates what value you have brought to this organization, and I want to very much thank you for what you have done. Are there any other comments from the commission?
Yeah, this is Laura Gentini. I echo everything that Jerry said, and also just out of admiration I have for just how much you bring and how smart to me what you bring to this organization. And I come into this with this finance background, and the most of the time this stuff went over my head, but you were an amazing coach and just always made me feel like I was catching on slowly but surely, but I was catching on. So I very much appreciate that. And you will definitely be missed, but thank you. For 18 years is amazing. Thank you for everything you've done for the city of Alameda.
Great, thank you.
Yes, I'd like to comment too. I don't always agree with everything Ann represents, but I do not question her commitment to AMP or the energy industry. And congratulations.
Great, thank you. All right.
Manager.
We have a comment. Manager Levitt wants to speak.
I also want to concur with everything that's been said, and President McCormick, I think since I've been here, you've done an amazing job. You show a lot of commitment to the community through your work with AMP, and you bring a lot of expertise that we've found a lot of value. Me personally, and communicating with you, I found a great value, and we're going to miss you a lot. But thank you for your service to the community, to the board, and to AMP. I appreciate it very much.
Great, thank you very much.
I was going to ask if there was any other comments to be made.
Commissioner Cerventi?
Yes.
If I could, from staff's perspective, I also want to acknowledge President McCormick. I think 18 years is an incredible streak. And if you look back in the history books, there's not a lot of people who've been on the PUB who can say they've been there that long. And it wasn't all fun times. There were definitely some challenges, and I think a sign of a true leader is somebody who not only steps up during the good times, but also during some of those challenging times and helps to steer the organization through those difficult times. And President McCormick has done just that. Certainly from my perspective as the general manager, it's not often you get to walk into an organization and have somebody of Ann's caliber already there. And we've developed a very close working relationship. I've benefited a lot from President McCormick's experience and also her wisdom. And I'm certainly going to miss that. And I want to thank you from my perspective and also from the organization for a wonderful time, 18 years in dedication and a great job.
Thank you. Great. Well, I appreciate those kind comments and the beautiful written resolution as well. I think our next order of business is a motion.
I will make a motion to pass the resolution.
And I will second.
And roll call vote.
President McCormick?
I'll abstain.
I didn't, did you say my name? If so, yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes, yes.
Commissioner Gould?
Yes.
City Manager Levitt? City Manager's on mute, but I saw him say yes.
Lip reading on Zoom. It's all good. Thank you. And again, thank you all for the kind words. Let's move into item 5, which is our regular agenda. We have one item tonight, but it's an important one, to adopt a resolution establishing the fiscal year 2022 budget. As I said, every time we do this, it always seems anticlimactic because we've spent so many months working on the budget. Certainly staff has, and we've had many opportunities to weigh in. But tonight, we'll turn this over for a presentation and resolve any outstanding questions and look for final adoption. So with that, I'll hand it to staff.
Thank you, President McCormick. I'll keep my comments very brief, except really to emphasize that once again, we continue to be in good shape. As you'll see, there's not a whole lot of changes from the last time we were before you with the budget. And I do want to emphasize that we are very pleased that we're able to do a second straight year of a 0% rate increase. We feel that's really going to help the community during, especially during COVID, as we come out of that period. With that, I will turn it over to Bob Orbeta to walk us through the brief presentation.
Thank you, General Manager Prokos, President McCormick, members of the board. I'll just briefly go over the schedule that we've done, some of the changes that we've done post budget workshop in April, and then just to look at the financial summary once again. So President McCormick mentioned that it is a bit anticlimactic because we actually started this back in January in the annual planning workshop, and then moving along, presented the 10-year pro forma to the board, which was done in March. And then we spent a couple of hours in April going over the proposed budget, as well as in the regular meeting, discussed the rate impacts. And as Commissioner, as everyone has been saying, this is year 2 of 0% rate increase. So we're presenting tonight the budget, and I'll go over some of the changes. And if the board approves the budget, the approved rate schedules that were done in April will be implemented, as well as the budget on July 1st. There were 3 changes that were made, or adjustments on the expense side. The first one was a reduction of $40,000 in pension expense in the admin budget, and that is offset by an increase of $40,000 in for the new development construction rebate program. We realized that that program needed additional funds, and so that's the $40,000 will cover the expenditures in that program. Also, we finalized working with the city finance office, the April CPI to adjust the general fund transfer, and that increased the general fund transfer by $72,216. And so we're very happy that we were able to finalize it with the help of city finance. And then this slide just depicts the changes that were made from the budget workshop to today with the final budget that's in your packet. I'll just go over a couple of the numbers. The revenue, 63 million. It's an increase of about 400,000 from the prior year's budget, and the reason for the increase is the load forecast that was adopted by the board increased slightly, so that's why you're seeing a slight increase there. Reserve spending has gone down a little bit. That changed about 200,000, I believe. Purchase power went up a little bit, about 200,000 as purchase power costs increased. But you'll see there haven't been any changes other than the general fund transfer calculation of the 72,000 from the prior budgets. And that's really all I have, and I'm open to questions from the board with regards to the changes or anything else with regards to the budget.
President McCormick, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got it. Thank you, Bob. And we should ask if there are any requests for comment from members of the public.
I'm not seeing any hands. As a reminder, if you join and you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand. And also I see one caller who has called in with a telephone number. And if you are a member of the public, what you can do is press *6 to unmute yourself and make a comment. So.
Great.
Don't see hands, but.
Okay, well, seeing no obvious ones, let's go ahead and ask for any board input, or questions. Commissioner Cerventi?
Yes, thank you. Bob, with the problems we're going to have this summer with no, with a lot of reduced power coming from the hydro, how do we see that as an impact on the budget? Or do we?
Commissioner Cerventi, I was actually going to cover this in our GM report. We did take a look at that, and while we are seeing impacts in the hydro situation, we are actually in pretty good shape. For August, we're 92% covered, and then actually over 100% if you count our combustion turbine and the STIG units. And then September, that drops a little bit to 85% covered. And then with those two units, it takes it back up to 96%. We believe that the likely scenario will result in about $80,000 exposure in September only. And, certainly the STIG and the CTs have been helpful in kind of closing that gap. And our expectation is those will run a lot come August or September.
Okay, thank you. In addition to that, I'd like to thank Bob and staff for all the hard work that his group has put together, and Nico and the rest of the team putting this budget together. And I appreciate the fact that we're able to pull off another year of zero rate increase. And we'll keep our fingers crossed to see how life behaves in the next year, to see where we end up next year. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Gould?
So Nico, you mentioned the CTs will be running more. How is that going to affect our 100% carbon-free pledge?
Well, Commissioner Gould, we don't anticipate that it will actually have an impact. We have made additional purchases of carbon-free energy, actually several, which have been reported in the GM report over the last year or so. And so we will monitor that situation and may need to make, probably will need to make some additional purchases to close that gap, which we've done, as I mentioned, several times in the past.
So that will offset those emissions.
Essentially, yeah, that's correct.
And where do those funds come from to buy those?
Oh, well, it would be in the power cost budget. And because we feel that it's fairly de minimis, we're not anticipating that it actually will have, we'll have to come back to the board to request additional funds.
Okay, thank you.
Great, Commissioner Giantini?
I just had a couple of quick questions. Bob, you kind of explained a couple of changes, but it doesn't look like they were material enough to change the budget. Is that what I understood?
Correct.
Okay, cool. And then I would also like to echo the thank you to Bob and the entire staff. We spend a significant amount of time looking at the budget and thinking through it logically. And I know that in the background, you spend probably 10 times that much time pulling it all together. So very much appreciate the consistent flow of information that allows us to continue to watch it on a normal annual basis, but making the budgeting process a lot more easy for us to follow and understand. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you. All great comments and questions from the board, and I like the word of the night being de minimis, I think our general manager said, when it comes to changes or impacts. We never know exactly what's ahead, and if we ever needed to have proof of that, look at the last 18 months. But I think AMP has shown a lot of resiliency and will stay that course, work with this plan and pivot when needed. With our unwavering commitment to 100% carbon-free power and to not raising rates again this year. And, we do have a board policy in place that even if we ease into needing to raise rates next year, it's a pretty small percentage, a step percentage, nothing like the investor-owned utility customers are seeing. So I think that's all good news, and certainly echo the other commissioners. Thanks to the staff, Bob and his whole team behind the scenes who spent a lot of work on this. And this also represents some belt tightening and some realigning and organizational improvements as well that we were taken through earlier this year. And I think that's all really important to remember as we look at this. I think it's a good plan to move into next year. And we'll, as our general manager said, we'll see what happens. Great. Do we have any further discussion or comments? All right.
We do have a public comment at this point.
Okay.
Mr. DeVries. Mr. DeVries, did you want to unmute?
Great. It looks like we have Nick DeVries on the line, and we will ask for his public comment.
Hi, this is Nick DeVries. Members of the board, staff, thank you for the opportunity to speak and actually have fellowship with other people in Alameda on serious topics facing our city. I value being able to connect this past year, albeit remotely, because business must go on. The utility must continue to push electrons, and despite the times we're in. I did want to speak not specific to the budget, but as things related to my public comments from last month, and wanted to check that this was the right time to do so.
Nick, but if you don't mind, I think we might be better off under oral communications, which is just after our general manager's report, if it's not specific to this agenda item.
No, if that's the case, so I'll wait till that time, and wanted to make sure the flow of the meeting was going correctly. I would say that I did appreciate the dialogue between General Manager Prokos and Commissioner Gould on the offsetting the running of the CTs. That's important to check and balance and make sure that's done right. And I thought that was valuable information. Thank you.
Great, perfect comment. So we'll note that comment under this agenda item. We'll switch gears for just a few minutes and then be back to oral communications for further comment. So next, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, did we do our motion? Yeah.
Commissioner Cerventi will so move to pass the budget.
And Commissioner Gentini will second.
Great. And a roll call vote, please.
President McCormick,
Aye.
Commissioner Cerventi,
Yes.
Commissioner Giantini,
Yes.
Commissioner Gould,
Yes.
City Manager Levitt.
Yes.
Great, thank you, and sorry about that minor confusion. Okay, so the budget passes unanimously, and we will move into agenda item 6, where we turn it over for the general manager's report.
Thank you, President McCormick. A couple of items to report on. One was already covered in response to Commissioner Cerventi's question from earlier. But the Mastic Senior Center asked AMP to host an EV 101 webinar for their audience on June 15th. Heather Heinbaugh from our CRD group hosted the webinar, and it was very well received. The virtual event drew 25 participants. You may recall that prior to COVID, we did a lot of EV-related ride and drive programs, events where people could come out, sit in cars, ask questions, even drive them around a little bit. Unfortunately, we had to set that aside during COVID, but we are hopeful to resume that in the very near future as things settle down a little bit more. Since we opened early enrollment in June, we are now up to 290 customers signed up for the new TOU rate set to launch on July 1st. So we're getting some good response to that. A lot of early adopters, which is exciting. So we're hopeful that we can continue to see customers take advantage and sign up for this opportunity. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on the GM report. I believe you're on mute, President McCormick.
Okay, well, it wouldn't be a meeting without one of us staying on mute. Any questions from the board?
I wanted to ask Nico about Doolittle. Any status on what's happening with Doolittle?
Commissioner Gould, I'm happy that you asked. We were hopeful to bring it to the board for this meeting. Unfortunately, we're unable to finalize the agreements, but we are on track for next month's meeting with that would be a recommendation to the city council since it's longer than 15 years. And that would then go to the city council around probably September, October timeframe. So it does look, after several years, it looks like it's most likely going to happen. So we're very excited about that project.
Great, thank you.
Great, yeah, definitely look forward to more information next month. Great, any other questions for the general manager? Next, we'll move to council communications and ask our city manager if there's any updates.
I'll be brief. I want to thank again President McCormick for serving for all these years and being so valuable to the community. The city council's been involved in quite a few issues. We're currently looking at alternative response for mental health calls, and we are looking at multiple proposals right now for a pilot program, and then we'll be continuing to look over the next year for possibly a permanent alternative response to mental health. That's a major issue being faced by the council. In addition, the city council has started the RENA process, which is the housing allocation process, and we'll probably be meeting in July to discuss that process and how they'll be moving forward. I think we have several large issues. I'd say those are two of the largest issues. The city's also just approved its budget at the previous city council meeting in June. They approved the budget, and so we're moving forward with a approved budget and a balanced budget at the city level. With that, I'll turn it back to you.
Great, thank you. Next, we'll move to board communications. I had one brief but important item tonight. I just wanted to acknowledge the passing of Julianne Boyer, who served as AMP's financial person. In the early 2000s, I had the opportunity to work with Julianne when I came on the board many years ago. And of course, she went on to serve the city as the finance director for a number of years. Anybody who knows Julianne or knows of her knows she was pretty tireless in public service to the community, involved in a number of organizations. And her celebration of life was over the weekend at the Girls Inc. Center in Santa Clara. So I didn't remember if we had the opportunity to acknowledge her publicly in the meetings past, but I just wanted to, on behalf of past staff and past board members, thank Julianne for her commitment to AMP, and she will definitely be missed. Any happier board communications? Commissioner Cerventi?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's happier, but maybe. But as a representative from NCPA, I wanted to bring back some information. Kind of the big topic with them right now is the lack of water, you know, for all the hydro projects. And we've had some conversations with respect to that and what the impacts are going to be, and with the projections that it's going to probably be a very hot summer based on what we've already seen. And, you know, Nico sent some information out recently about rolling blackouts, and NCPA wants to make sure that we let all our citizens know to beware as the summer goes on, you know, to be careful about what we're doing and start conserving now on your energy usage. And so if we can conserve now, that'll help our opportunities, you know, to use more hydro later, hopefully, and the same with the geo. You know, if we don't have to use it all earlier in the summer, we're better off as we get into the time of year when there'll be a greater demand on the facilities. So I just wanted to pass that on. I'll put it out there in a public meeting. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I'm sure our staff will be working on that messaging. There's a lot of confusion about rolling blackouts and, you know, the scheduled blackouts for load emergencies versus PSPS and AMP versus PG&E and everything else. But I think the message that Jerry shared about conserving now, even, you know, improving things later is a little bit of a new twist that we can work on messaging as well. Plus, it saves people money. So.
Yep.
Great. Any other board communications tonight? Great. We'll move into item 9, which is oral communications for non-agenda items, public comment. And I believe we had Nick DeVries.
And we still have another caller. Just a reminder, if the other caller would like to speak, press *6. So unmute.
Okay, I think I navigated Teams correctly and got mute proper. Thanks for the opportunity to speak publicly and in the right part of the agenda item. Last month, I spoke out about the use of the gen set and replacing a gen set at the service center, simply that it emits carbon, and there's other methods to do this. I also wanted to say publicly that this came up again in my life in the past month professionally, as I manage and operate solar power plants and substations, and we too had to face the same operational need. And how do we back up the controls of our substations, just as AMP has to back up the controls of the town's distribution system? It's a tough one, and we personally at my company balanced with more batteries, but got a mobile gen set so that we weren't locked in to this for the long term. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak about this and debate this publicly within our town. It's not just something that our town has to deal with. I like Commissioner Cerventi's idea of maybe we could do something in hardening city infrastructure in the future without having to use gen sets. It tied into the batteries and then the costing of battery energy storage systems that I thought Mr. Harbottle did a good job explaining where we stood. And I took information from General Manager Prokos and understood that, again, we don't want to run the CTs, but they run at 1% capacity factor, except for this month for when the hydro is lean. And again, this is real operations. We can't just say we don't want to run the CTs. They're part of the energy mix. 1% capacity factor at about, I think I looked at the public records as $1 million a year to operate. For 1% capacity factor is not cheap. It's not a great levelized cost of energy. The fact that they keep getting called on month over month, week after week, and maybe this summer more often than not, makes it clear to me that this is an important node on the grid, on NCPA's grid, feeding the port, BART, and our city, and it's a strategic position on the grid. I think it means that a battery energy storage system would be in the money earlier than in other places on the grid. We could use solar from the Doolittle project to, when it's not needed in the city, to store it in the BESS and then release it as needed. I think this will be an interesting space. What's happening in our nation's grid, our city's grid, our state's grid is fluctuating quickly, and we're going to need to lead from the front and know what's possible with technology to make better use of actually to serve the public, to serve Alamedans, and to continue to serve them with 100% renewable energy. Thank you for the time to speak and for dialogue month to month as we're able to. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Nick. We certainly appreciate the real world experience and I know emergency backup is a dilemma in a lot of situations. So I think that underscores what we struggled with and the decision that we made, but also emphasizing that it's all very fluid and changing really quickly, particularly with pricing and reliability moving forward. So we will be talking about this more, not less, as we move forward for sure. So appreciate that. Excuse me. Great. Are there any other requests for oral communications?
None.
Okay. Well, seeing none, I think that brings us to the end of our agenda. It's 5:37, and we'll go ahead and close the meeting, and I'll look forward to connecting with some of you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.